Mark Hinchliffe, and force of habit I've stopped at a service station, but I don't need to because today I'm riding the Zero electric bike. We're right near the highway. Let's go for a nice quiet ride. Zero DS. Now, this is a police special, so it's got a few extra little bits and pieces like sirens and lights. The first thing you'll notice is that there's no noise. It's just that little bit of a whir. Okay, you can go in. As you can see, or as you can hear, it's very, very quiet. This is the Zero DS, and this one is actually a police special, so it's got a few extra things like siren and lights. This light here that's taped up. But the normal DS is a dual sport. Now that's just one of the range. There's a lot in the range. There's a standard sport, and then there's a high-powered sport, and there's even a little trick bike called an FX. But basically they're all the same with different power packs on them, with range from about 100 kilometres to about 276 with a power extender. But they're expensive. They start at about $20,000, they go up to nearly $30,000. And for that, what do you get? You get a fairly basic sort of bike. The build quality is very, very good, but you can't think of it like a normal bike. It's maintenance free. So except for brake fluid and brake pads and a few things like that, you don't have to touch the motor. You also don't have to go to a service station, so you're saving all the fuel. They reckon the cost works out to about 1 cent or less per kilometre. But if you have solar power, it's zip or zap. So what's it like to ride? Well, it's not like a normal bike. For a start, as I said, it's very, very quiet. It sort of just sounds like a whir, like a very quiet vacuum. And the throttle response isn't immediate, it isn't abrupt like on a normal petrol engine. It's sort of a smooth transition. It's very, very linear, and it's like turning on the dimmer switch on the lights. But apart from that, it still handles like a normal bike. It's got very good weight distribution. Of course, the motor is down very, very low, so it flicks around quite easily. I'm not particularly happy with the way the suspension is set up, but no doubt the police will sort that out. It's very much like a conventional bike. This one has upside down forks, all the mechanicals, the brakes and suspension and so on, are very much like a normal bike. This is where it's different. In here we've got the controller, the motor and the battery all in this little square down the bottom here, and it's pretty much don't ever touch it. If it breaks down, I think they'd probably just replace it, but it's maintenance free. So you don't have to put any oil in it, obviously you don't have to put any fuel in it, you never have to touch it. So if you don't go to a fuel station, how do you charge it up? Well, you take this cable, you plug this end in here, and you plug that into the wall. Now it takes anywhere between 3.5 hours if you have the quick charge unit, which is extra, up to 10 hours. Now I had this charging overnight, got up to 98% from 1%. That is a little bit of a problem. Obviously you have to think differently. You can't just suddenly say I'm out of fuel, because you won't fill up very, very quickly. The statistics and the figures and the specs and so on, look, I've got a long sheet of them here, but there's too much to think about. Basically it's very light. The FX is only 100 kilos, this one's about 166, and the top weight is about 207. It has about 50 kilowatts of power, about 94 Newton meters, and the top one has about 144 Newton meters, and when you're talking about electric motors, it's all about torque. So that one should be a real zapper. Be interested to have a ride on that. Although it's an electric bike, it doesn't have Jetson sort of styling. It's fairly conventional here. I'll switch this on. Looks like a fairly normal sort of digital display, but there are some things that are different. This is the battery here. That's the battery capacity, down to 64% at the moment. And here we've got a very important one, which is the temperature of the motor. Now when it gets to 100, it loses a lot of power, so you've got to keep that down, which means slowing down periodically or stopping to let it cool. You'll also see a meter here that says output and regen. When you're throttling on, you're using power and torque, and when you throttle off, you're putting some heat and some energy back into the battery, which charges it back up again. So when you're going downhill or when you're stopping at the lights, you're actually putting some back into the battery, which gives you a little bit of extended life. Got a few other things here that are different. Of course, this is the same. You don't have any fuel in here, so you can keep your gloves and so on in there. But because this is a police special, it has the CB radio, the hazards, the extra lights, and over here the siren, which I'm forbidden to use, but oh geez, wouldn't I love to give it a go. All in all, it's an expensive proposition, but I'd like to see people go out and buy electric bikes, because this is the start of an evolution, and we need people to buy them. We need people to progress the technology, because eventually this is what we'll be riding. Something like this, maybe hybrid powered, maybe solar powered, but in the end it's going to have an electric motor. And you know what? It's quite fun. I'd buy one.